Bonjour les étudiants et bienvenue à ma première leçon sur les bases de la phonétique française. Welcome then, Furman students. I'd like to show this first part of our lesson number 2 for French 115, which is going to have to do with a basic introduction to French phonetics by way of the alphabet. So as you saw, as part of your assignment, you had the sons et lettres section on page 13, and then the My French Lab exercises. Well, I'd like to help you a little bit with how to distinguish the various letters, and as well as teach you the first introduction to the International Phonetic Alphabet, which is IPA, not the beer, but the alphabet, symbols that are written here. So here we go. To begin with, let's look at this first column I have on the left. You see that I have these symbols. They're letters, but they're also actually very technical symbols. Then they're between these two slashes. When you see a symbol, for example, in the textbook, when you see a letter between two slashes like that, that means that it represents a really specific sound that anybody's mouth can pronounce. But certain languages only have certain sounds and others not. And for those of you linguists out there, I'm not pretending to be an expert on this. I'm just trying to give a basic, applied, hopefully useful understanding for beginning French students here. So, this sound it represents E. So you can think about it as sort of smiling a little bit and having your tongue about midway and a little bit tense in your mouth, and you say E. Now you notice it's different from English because in English a lot of times our vowels don't stay the same. They're to simplify, sorry. We have multiple vowel sounds kind of blended together, transitioning one into the other. So for example, we might say A, and that's often, if an English-speaking person first learned French, a lot of times they do that. You hear the difference between E and A, so you want to do it more like E. So this is the sound E. Now, the interesting thing is that when you do the French alphabet, all of these letters are going to be pronounced with this sound. Like, for example, if you sing the alphabet song. So if this is E, here we have B, C, D, G, B, D, V, W. So let me do that a little bit more slowly. So here you have B, C, D, G, B, T, V, W. So you see how the same sound is used when you say the alphabet. Okay? So if you can practice that sound and learn to make it, and we can work on that a little bit more in class, you can already start working on your French pronunciation. Now, one thing that's complicated is when French is written, a lot of times there are different letters and accents used to represent sounds. So if you see in a French word, if you see combinations of letters like this, those generally represent this sound. So, for example, if you see what they call an accent aigu, and it's sloping over that way, you pronounce it E. And if it has another so if you have this two combination together, that's pronounced the same, E. And a lot of times at the end of a word, for example, at the end of a verb, if you have ER, that's also pronounced E. So you have the same sound there. E, B, C, D, G, P, T, V, W. Okay? Now, the next step. Here we have a slightly different sound. This is a sound that we use in English for a lot of things. It's very easy. For example, if there are any English words that have short English words like bet, met, set, that vowel sound in the center of the word, that's the sound. So if you're an English speaker, you already do this. At least, well, I should say at least with my accent, is to the extent that I understand, that's the sound that I use. So here, you can pronounce that eh. So you see, actually, your mouth is a little bit more open than in this sound. If you look at my mouth, here I say E, and here I say eh. You see that my mouth is more open. So here I go eh, and if you want, you can try practicing, bet, met, eh, and then see if you can do it without putting the consonants before and after. Eh. So here, that is the vowel sound that we use when we say these letters of the alphabet. You say F, L, M, N, R, S, Z. So here we have F, L, M, N, R, S, Z. E, F-L-M-N-R-S-Z. Okay? Now, third one. We have a couple more to go through after this. Third one is the sound E. 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 Again, I'm not a native French speaker. I'm doing it as closely as I can. Maybe it's a little off. I'm not sure. I'm doing the best that I can. Here, what we need to remember is that first of all, your tongue is going to be tense and high in your mouth, and your mouth's going to be somewhat open, like this, somewhat like you're smiling again. And your tongue and throat needs to be relatively tense, certainly more tense than these two. So you say E, E, E. And you notice as well, like a lot of times when we're speaking English, we say E, 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 E. You hear how it's rounded and it changes? Okay, we don't want to change. We want to have it be the same sound the whole time. So E, E, like that. How you can do this is you form your mouth like that. You make the sound. You say E. You try to start the sound and end the sound without moving your mouth. You can practice that. It's a little challenging at first, but you'll get used to it. Now that's the sound that we use for these four letters. You say I, J, X, Y. I, J, X, Y. Okay? So once more, I, J, X, et Y. Now here we have A. A. I didn't do this. This is supposed to be an A, like in certain fonts. I didn't write it perfectly. This is the sound. So here your mouth is more open. You say ah. This is kind of like when you go to the doctor's office and they say they use the tongue depressors. Say ah. Now the difference is in English you say ah and you hear how it's rounded ah ah. Because my mouth closes while I'm still pronouncing the sound. In French, you want to have your mouth be still when you start pronouncing the sound and finish it. Now I should say, this is the pronunciation I learned and that I'm teaching here. I'm not suggesting is better than any other. It's just where I learned it was a more European style of pronouncing these letters. And for those of you who either grew up speaking North American French or learned it, you know that what I'm saying about the mouth moving doesn't necessarily apply here. So here I'm talking more about typical European pronunciation that I learned as a student. So here we have A, Ka, Ash. A, Ka, Ash. A. See how my mouth's open? A. A, Ka, Ash. All right. This last one it tends to be kind of difficult if you are a native English speaker, right? It's the sound E, E. Now, a lot of times, English speakers, if I say oo or E, it sounds the same. If you grew up speaking French, that sounds completely, utterly different to you. So I'm assuming that many of you, are native English speakers and mostly speak English. So for this, in this situation, I need to kind of show you a couple of techniques to be able to know how to make the sound with your mouth. All right. So you begin by doing this sound, E, 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 E. Okay, like that E, just the same as before. Right. Now, what you want to do is try to keep your tongue in exactly the same position and same amount of tension, and you can use it looks silly, but you can use your fingers to help push your lips, and it feels very exaggerated at first if you didn't grow up doing it. You push your lips inward, so you start by going E, 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 and then you push in, and that makes, once you get it like that, it's the inside my mouth, my tongue and stuff is the same position, but it's just my lips that have moved. And then I go E, E, E. So how you can practice and learn to do it at first is you can go E, 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 and then try to start the sound with your mouth already there. E, 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 okay? So this is actually the letter E, and you also use it to pronounce this consonant, Q, Q, E, Q, E. And this is the symbol here, E. So once more, maybe an overview. E, I, A, U. B, C, D, G, P, T, V, W. E, F, L, M, N, R, S, Z. I, J, X, Y. A, K, H, U, Q, U. I forgot to mention over here, so this sound, when it's written in French, it's typically written with one or two possibilities. The first possibility is what they call an accent grave, so your accent going the other way, and that you just would pronounce that if you thought in a word. The other option, and can be sometimes confusing, the other option is if you have this letter and there's a double consonant afterward. Not always, but most of the time you pronounce that as well. So for example, this you pronounce L, N, M. All right. With E, it's simpler. You either have just E, or sometimes there's this other letter after it, and you still pronounce that E, like c'est la vie, E. Here, this is important. Okay, with this letter, when you have the accent differences, those accents mean a change in sound. However, with this letter, those two things are pronounced exactly the same. This accent doesn't mean a change in sound, it's a change in meaning. This means has, and this means at or to. Okay, so, but it's pronounced exactly the same. So in order to distinguish it when you read it, you mark the little accent to make the difference there. Okay, and then here, if you see just this letter by itself, you pronounce it U. Okay, if there's another letter with it, that means something different. But by itself, it's U. Like, for example, when you say tu, vu, and so forth. Finally, this, when you, so there are two kind of odd letters, if you will. Whoops, forgot one thing here on my little diagram. Just what we say, the letter we call O in English, all right? Let's see here. Oh, yes. So there are two sort of outlying or different, if you will, letters. Or sorry, vowels. I mean, we're talking about vowels here to be technical. And again, I'm a literary scholar. This is, for beginning French students. So sorry if there are tiny inaccuracies or whatever. So particularly you, my colleague, Dr. McNo, I am embarrassed, but I will move on. Okay, so here we are. So you can pronounce that So basically, how I teach this is I just say, just completely relax your mouth, kind of let it hang open, and then see if you can make a sound. Now sometimes, like, right, and that's usually written with just this letter in French by itself. So for example, if you say je, like je, tu, je is this letter. Now, there's some different people pronounce this a little bit differently, more or less rounded lips. So, for example, some people might say and other people might say I don't think that's that important, especially right now. So just see if you can concentrate on having a sound that's more or less a relaxed mouth, more or less neutral sounding. Je. Okay. Here, this is the sound o, and you see that, like with the other vowels here, it's not in English where I say oh, and then many sounds in the same one. Here it's just o. Okay, and then here, how you would see that written in a French word usually is like this, o, like that, o, or like that, o. And that concludes our phonetics, and I'm sorry that I went on so long, but I hope this is helpful. You don't have to watch this all at once. You can maybe do one sound at a time in practice, and remember to look at this alongside your homework in my French lab and also your e-textbook. See if you can identify where these sounds come out in the various words, and this will help you a great deal as you practice for your dictée tomorrow. Okay, see you very soon. Bye-bye.